Obviously, I'm sitting next to my colleague Anne Clark, who represents Barnet and Camden, who share a border with Brent and Harrow, and we have had residents impacted more frequently than in the past with basement flooding. Yeah. And it's an issue that I think is affecting Londoners even more, and we've seen the severe weather that has impacted the whole country as well as parts of London in recent weeks as well. How is the LFB ensuring that there's adequate funding to ensure it can respond to incidents of flooding? And also, what impact does not having the statutory responsibility to deal with flooding have on the LFB as well?
Yeah, so I'll perhaps start the final part of the question. I think we should have a statutory responsibility for incident response in flooding. It's more complex than saying it's the whole thing, because obviously there's a very important role for Environment Agency and local authorities in what is very often a very expensive and time-consuming recovery process for communities. But I think we should have the statutory responsibility for flooding in the response phase, because we're the best people at responding and the best people at coordinating that response. So actually that statutory responsibility, while I think it should be supported by funding, is less of a finance issue, more of a clarity issue, which says actually we're the people who hold responsibility in almost every other hazard environment for command and control. We should just have it for flooding, because I've been a national flood rescue advisor where there isn't that clarity. You end up having to go through quite a difficult process of negotiation with all sorts of parties at the point a response is happening around who has primacy of kind of command and control. So that's the main reason for me, if you're asking my opinion as Commissioner, why we need that statutory responsibility, because it makes it very clear that we take the lead as an agency, which we inevitably always do. At that point, we saw it recently, last weekend in London. That's London firefighters and officers responding in the immediacy in Hackney Wick to kind of evacuate 70+ residents and ensure their safety. In terms of our actual response, we've got a very well-developed flood response in London. Every single London firefighter is already trained to provide basic response in the context of a flooding environment. Whilst any inward investment from central government around statutory responsibility would be welcome or suggested additional funding, actually it'd be wrong of me to say that we haven't already got a very well-developed flood response. We have 10 specialist water rescue capable units. We've got specialist flood response. We've got a number of national flood rescue advisors. So I think our response is already pretty well developed. We'd always seek to improve, but there's not a glaring need for an investment from my point of view at this juncture around that. It's already baked into kind of our operational planning and cost. And I think we're well equipped. What would help would be clarity around the multi-agency response in the initial phase, which is your statutory duty.